Rift travel is back on the menu. Rift travel has been introduced to Immortal Empires via the optional Chaos Dwarf Endgame Crisis. Using the Chaos Dwarf Endgame tunnels, your armies can move into the tunnel at the end of their turn and then come out of the tunnel with their full movement at the start of the following turn. When the Chaos Dwarf Endgame triggers, it creates 5 Chaos Dwarf invasion tunnels. Each one allows travel back and forth to a specific location. The northernmost tunnel links Fort Dorznai Vort in the south of Astrogath starting region to Gorsel in the Wasteland in the west of the Empire, a region that's normally owned by Marienburg. The second most northerly tunnel links to Venom Glade near Clarcaron, just south of Malekith's starting position. The third tunnel links the Gates of Zar in the center of the Darklands with Pomai in the lands of Stone and Steel. That's just to the east of Miao Ying's starting position, just south of the Great Bastion. The fourth tunnel links the Tower of Gorgoth region. That's the capital of the Blue Chaos Dwarfs with the Tlaxlan region in northern Lustria. The southernmost tunnel links Darkhold, just west of Dradzoth's starting position, with the Suntree Glades in the Southlands, very close to both Volkmar and Manfred's starting positions. Unlike the rifts in the Realm of Chaos campaign, demon armies won't spawn directly on top of the rifts. When the Chaos Dwarf Endgame triggers, the Blue Chaos Dwarves, the Overlords of Zarduk faction, will automatically confederate the neutral Brown Chaos Dwarfs that control Zar Nagrund. They'll also spawn a number of endgame armies with the self-sufficient minus 100% upkeep army buff. The higher that you set the endgame difficulty, the more of these armies will spawn. But the same 5 Chaos Dwarf tunnel locations will always spawn, regardless of whether you put it on 25% strength or 200%. As soon as the endgame triggers, the Overlords of Zarduk will begin sending their armies through the tunnels to attack you. However, this army that just spawned in the middle of my lands doesn't seem to have actually moved across the campaign map. It seems like it's scripted just to appear in a location near the tunnel exit. So you probably can't ambush them as they exit the tunnel entrance or anything. If you want to defeat the Chaos Dwarf endgame, you can travel through the tunnels to the Darklands, and then you'll have to conquer Zar Nagrund, the Veil of Woe, and the Falls of Doom origins. This gives you a few options when it comes to subverting the Chaos Dwarf endgames for your own ends. In this campaign, playing as Village, I'd already vassalized the Overlords of Zarduk long before the endgame started, and I'd gifted them a large number of regions, giving them a huge empire and also giving them massive positive relations to me. In this campaign, I have diplomacy for the endgame factions turned on, and I made sure to have 2 of my armies sitting right next to Zar Nagrund when the endgame scenario popped. You could probably win this battle if you just have a really strong army here, as well as a second weak army, and then you just untick control large armies so that only one of the enemy armies can fight you at a time. In this case, I'm just going to use the reinforcement point behind the cap point. Zar Nagrund has a reinforcement point for the attacker that's right behind the city's cap point, so you can just bring your army on straight onto the capture point and then win the battle that way. When you've moved your whole army onto the cap point, it's extremely hard for the enemy to be able to dislodge you and stop you from getting those victory tickets in time to stop you winning the battle. Even after I take Zar Nagrund, the huge amount of positive relations I've built up with them allows me to peace out with them immediately. Unfortunately, I can't make an alliance with the Overlords of Zarduk because I'm currently in an alliance with one of their enemies, Kolek's faction. So I do a deal with them to break my alliance and go to war with their enemies. And then I'm able to get a military alliance with the Overlords of Zarduk, which gives me control of all 3 settlements that I need to defeat the endgame scenario. So I've now beaten the Chaos Dwarf endgame scenario. I've got the most powerful faction in the game as my military ally with all of their free endgame armies, and I've got almost complete control of the entire area, giving me easy travel access to every part of the world. If you just want to be able to use the portals as quickly and easily as possible without having to deal with a strong endgame faction, you can always set the endgame difficulty to the lowest, 25%. Just put the turn timer on the minimum, 10 to 20, with no warning, so there's no extra delay added onto the 10 to 20. And then you can also enable diplomacy for scenario factions, just in case you want to vassalize or ally with the Overlords of Zarduk to make sure that they stay alive and keep those portals open. The portal just to the south of Malekith's starting position is quite convenient if you want to send Dark Elf raiding parties through there into the Darklands, or even through other tunnels from the Darklands into Cathay or Empire. The Tomb Kings factions Manfred von Carstein, and Volkmar all have their book mechanics that require them to travel around the world. If you have to get to a distant book quickly, the tunnel shortcuts might help you with some of those campaigns sometimes. Turn 10 Chaos Dwarf tunnels in Lustria might help Wolfheart if you want to migrate back to your beloved Empire a little easier. In my current Malice Darkblade campaign, I'm trying to migrate to the Darklands to set up my own fantasy version of the Dark Eldar webway city of Camorra. I'll enslave the overlords of Zardoz and reforce them to become my military allies. Then Malice's merry band can ravage the entire world from the safety of our secret domain. If you have any other ideas for cool themed campaigns based around interdimensional travel via Chaos Dwarf tunnels, or any other headcanon you've got going on, I'd love to hear it. Just chuck a comment down below.